standing in the rain with his head hung low. Couldn't get a ticket. It was a
You're listening to The Mark Cox Show. Follow Mark on Twitter at MarkCox971.
And yes, you are listening to the Mark Cox Show. Unfortunately, you have Chris Arps guest hosting unfortunately. No. You have Chris Arps guest hosting, and that's Tony Colombo, my weekend co-host. And before we went to the break, I told you that we're going to have Blair Ellis from the Show Me Institute. Blair is going to be, Susan Pendergrass. I'm calling you the wrong person. Sorry.
Blair was who we had earlier.
I'm going to walk out.
CPAC.
I'm going to walk out now. Susan Pendergrass, I'm sorry, from the Show Me Institute. How are you?
You said that, and I honestly thought, we have another Blair?
Yeah.
The second guest in a row that's named Blair?
And she's not speaking to me now. How are you?
I'm fine.
Hello,
How are
Susan.
you?
Good. Thanks for coming into the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we're going to talk about a pension issue that's really a little surprising, and I read it on the Show Me Institute's website, where there was a school superintendent here in Missouri that was making a low six-figure salary, $200,000. He retired with 90 or something % of that salary. He ended up going across the state line in Kansas, getting another job, and take it from there.
Sure, that's pretty much the case. He's going to retire, and it's not really retire, right? Because he's 57 years old. He's probably going to work another 10 years, but he's like, for a lot of us, that would just be changing jobs.
Yeah.
But the way it works in the public retirement system is he retires, he gets his retirement, which can be six figures, and then he can go work, the rest of his career somewhere else. But it would be in his best interest to go out of state and start into another retirement system and get a full salary. So it kind of pushes out our good talent. And it also, the way the system's set up, it encourages people to leave when they're like 55, 56 years old, which is no longer really a typical retirement age for most of us. So
what would you say to the greedy among us who would say, what's wrong with that? He's not breaking the law or anything?
Absolutely. No, he's doing exactly what he should do. That's the way the system is set up, that's what makes sense for him on an individual basis. But it's not sustainable in the long term, and it's a little overly generous. So the rules have had to be changed for the youngest teachers, and they don't have such a sweet deal. And I think going forward, we're going to have to find a solution that is sustainable, so that maybe new teachers will have to come in and get like a 401k or a 403b like the rest of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Something that's transportable, something that is that doesn't have this really generous payout when you're 55 or 56 years old. The people who made those promises are probably long gone, and someone's got to pay for them.
And you're exactly right. It's not his fault for taking advantage of the system. We would all want to do that, and it's always, everybody wants a generous, retirement package that they can fall back on. But we've talked a lot on this radio station, especially over the last couple of years, about the terrible debt situation that the state of Illinois is right across the river, and a lot of that has to do with pension benefits. And they've dug a hole over there in Illinois with pension benefits, paying out people, and they're bankrupt.
They're in such a hole.
Is your fear that Missouri could be heading down that exact same road if we continue?
Yeah. I mean, if you continue to hire new people and give them and promise them these types of benefits, sort of a benchmark is when the pension system is below 70% funded, and the Missouri system is now like 69.6% funded. So, yeah, we're seeing this all over the place. Illinois, Pennsylvania, lots of places are having these same problems. And in those places, not so much Illinois, I wouldn't say, but other places, they're looking for smart solutions. Illinois, I don't know what they're doing. But
nobody does.
But I think Missouri's going to need to start thinking about, a real solution that it's not just based on like false investment returns and generous promises.
What would you say to critics that would say that you need these attractive benefits in order to keep good talent?
Well, I would say that right now new teachers are getting almost 10% of their paycheck taken out to send to the retirement system. If they had a 401k that maybe 5% was taking out, they could get that in salary. And I think come out of college with student loans, and teachers don't get paid that much.
Right, yeah.
They probably would prefer to have a higher salary when they come out of college than to have this benefit way down the road. And in Missouri, they don't even invest in that plan for 10 years. So they have to stay in the same school system for at least 10 years before they even get any of it. So I think it would make a lot more sense to pay them more and give them a more typical retirement plan.
What are some of the things that Show Me Institute are advocating to try to change this?
Yeah, so we're talking about like what could be some smart solutions in terms of switching from the current system, which is defined benefit, to maybe a defined contribution. And looking at ways to fund the unfunded parts of it. We definitely have information about that on the showmeinstitute.org. There's lots of ways that this could be resolved, but to just pretend it's not happening is like probably the biggest mistake, because the holes it gets deeper. Yeah, so it's time to stop digging.
Tony?
No, I think that it's a good point. That I think it's something that everybody needs to realize, that we don't want to head down that and you just mentioned the young teachers coming into the system. Do they want 10% of their salary going into a retirement fund that they may get down there? Because I know a lot of people that are entering the job market now that don't have any faith that those plans that they're paying into Social Security, those things are going to be there for them in 30 or 40 years, and it's a legitimate concern. So I think you're right. I think a lot of those new teachers would much rather have a different system that they know is going to be there for them than, well, you think, well, I'm putting this money in and it'll pay off in the long run. Not if we're bankrupt in 40 years, you may not ever see any of that money.
One thing that's particularly odd about Missouri is they have a fund for St. Louis, a fund for Missouri, and a fund for Kansas City. So teachers can't go from the city of St. Louis to Clayton. Like, they get stuck in a system because they can't transport them. So that's a big problem. Our younger people are more mobile. So, I just raising awareness. And when a story like this comes out, nothing at all wrong with what that guy's doing. But it's like, sort of illustrates, like, you can imagine we can't do this forever and still stay afloat.
So is this something that we have to push our legislators more than anything to get done? And what other suggestions do you suggest to change this?
Well, I guess,
what should we do?
Well, what we're doing is just trying to inform the policy and to let folks know that there are other ways of going about this in other places. And another thing that I've worked on personally is, like, in a lot of states, charter schools don't have to be in the retirement system. So there's a lot of charter schools that have 401ks and 403bs in other states, hundreds of them. And just, like, building awareness around that, like, there is not just one way to do this public education thing. There are other ways we could do it smarter. Just because we've been doing it that way for 50 years doesn't make it the smartest way to do it going forward.
Excellent. And if folks wanted to get more information, where would they go?
Showmeinstitute.org.
That's an easy one. Well, thank you, Susan, for coming in. I appreciate it for that information. And hopefully I can get a $200,000 pension and a $200,000 salary and do all that. That's nice. That's nice work if you can get it. Yeah, exactly.
That ship has sailed.
That was a thank you, Liz. Thank you. We'll be back, take some more calls, and kick it around with Tony here in the studio. You're listening to The Mark Cox Show on FM News Talk 97.1.
This is The Mark Cox Show.
with his head hung low. Couldn't get it.
Air Comfort Service Heating and Cooling. Weather with Dave Murray.
58 will do it for the high. Count on 50s anyway. Tonight, rain moves back in, 42 degrees for the low. Saturday, it will be coming at us in waves. Periods of rain and thunderstorms. Could be some real heavy downpours at times. 62 for the high. The rain coming to an end Saturday night. And then Sunday, partly sunny and dry. Pretty nice day on Sunday, 58. I'm Fox 2 meteorologist Dave Murray for FM News Talk 97.1.
Watch the Mark Cox Show live on the Granite Transformation Studio Cam at 971talk.com/Cox. Log on to our website or use your mobile device to join the daily live stream and watch the show. It's the Granite Transformation Studio Cam at 971talk.com/Cox.
Well, would you drive without insurance? Probably not. If you're smart, you don't, right? Do you go get your car checked when the oil light is on? Do you change your oil regularly? These are things that you go have someone else do because you're no good at it. That's why I recommend ThrottleNet if you need IT service. Maybe you've got a nephew who's really good at that and they set up your IT for your small business. there are threats out there that even the professionals have trouble defending against. That's why I recommend ThrottleNet. Don't put your livelihood at risk. Whether you own the company or you just go in every day and hope that when you log in, your computer is going to work, your livelihood is at stake. ThrottleNet can hold your hand through that. They can make sure your network is up to date, that you've got the proper security on the front end, and that you've got the proper backup on the back end. It's what they do. They give you 24-hour monitoring, no contracts ever. If you're not happy, you walk away. 866-826-5966 or throttlenet.com.
Not available in all states. Are you buried in credit card debt? Bills piling up faster than you can pay them down? With all the high interest